do you follow up what is widely considered the greatest piece of Batman media ever in Batman the Animated Series / Batman the New Adventures, especially when you're trying to create a new Batman-centric show? It's simple, of course. You have to shake up the formula. You have to go out and try something different. And I think that's what the Batman 2004 was really trying to do. It was trying to show Batman in a different light. Make Gotham more colorful, make the villains more eccentric, make it less grounded in reality and more like a comic book. And most importantly, introduce a brand new character for Batman to play off of. And for this show, it was Ethan Bennett. Ethan Bennett is a completely original character to this TV show, and he happens to be working in the GCPD. When we first meet him, he's being saddled with a new detective as his partner, being Ellen Yin. He and Ellen Yin are tasked with taking on Gotham's new rise in supervillains, and specifically their masked vigilante issue with Batman. Now, Ellen Yin is completely original in her own right, and she deserves her own video. But I want to stick with Ethan Bennett for this one. He is a hard-nosed cop. He believes in doing what is right. He's almost like this season's Commissioner Gordon when it comes to how he interacts with the Batman and his partners at the GCPD. But to add just another wrinkle to his character, he also happens to be best friends with Bruce Wayne.
Am I under arrest?
Yo, Bruce!
Hey, Ethan.
Where you been, my friend?
Master Bruce was at the Gator game last night.
They both grew up together playing high school basketball and seem to be extremely close friends. Something also that is unique to this Bruce Wayne / Batman is he is extremely down to earth. He played basketball growing up. He has best friends. He's not just our usual brooding Batman. That really does deserve its own video as well. Maybe I'll get there. Anyways, Ethan Bennett is sort of this grounded, hard-nosed cop. He sees the gray in everything. He doesn't see the world in a basic black and white, and that isn't really looked down as a great feature to have as a Gotham police detective. Especially when your partner on the police force sees everything in black and white. It either is law or order, nothing more or nothing less, and that's how Ellen Yin views everything. Even as she sees the direct impact Batman has in cleaning up the streets, she chases him relentlessly, much to Ethan's protest. Even when Ethan has Bruce / Batman dead to rights, he is always reluctant to reveal Batman's identity or really take him off the streets, firmly believing the good that Batman does translates to everything around him. And Ethan is very strong in this belief throughout majority of this first, very short 12-episode season.
Bats may be a criminal, but he's my kind of criminal.
But not everybody was nearly as receptive to his forward thinking as Ethan was, especially Chief Rojas, who hates the Batman with a passion. He believes that Batman is embarrassing the GCPD by essentially doing their job for them, that a masked freak is running around doing what the GCPD is supposed to do. So instead of focusing on the true villains, the people who are really causing problems in Gotham, he makes Batman the #1 priority. Ethan, of course, doesn't believe in this and speaks up.
Maybe we'd have more success if we tried working with bats.
Rojas takes about as well to that as you could imagine. He threatens to take Ethan's badge, he threatens to take away this man's livelihood, and basically says, if you don't catch the Batman, I'm going to fire you. So this puts Ethan between a rock and a hard place. He has to decide whether or not he's going to chase down the actual criminals that are running around Gotham, or divert his attention towards the Batman. All on a night when Joker's having another one of his twisted tariff plots, where he wants to deface a Gotham monument. Now, Ethan does have to make a hard decision, but he ultimately decides that it is better for him to keep his job than to protect a vigilante that he does not know. So Ethan, for the first time in this show, is in direct conflict with Batman, not just indirect because of Ellen Yin, and he is actively trying to stop Batman. Now, Joker takes heavy offense to this, because of course he's not the center of attention right now.
You mean to tell me the chief of police considers this vigilante a greater menace than the clown prince of crime? Why, that's an outrage! An insult!
Now, I obviously think this is very interesting for Ethan's character. He's very conflicted about what he's doing, letting a true supervillain go while having to capture the Batman simply because he has to work for somebody above him. This really does not sit right with Ethan at all, especially when Batman is responsible for saving his life on multiple occasions, not just this one. Ethan is in effect going against everything that he has stood for over the last portion of this season. He is almost at odds with who he is on the inside, and this starts to make a little bit of a mental toll on Ethan, not just physical. But of course, there's not much time for him to contemplate this, as Rojas is ready to chew him out once again for failing to capture the Batman and essentially instructing him to do it once more, even if Ethan himself doesn't agree with any of this. But if there's one thing that Ethan can rely on, it's Bruce Wayne, his best friend. Him and Bruce go out to have a little drink and just enjoy chatting with each other, catch up a little bit, and Ethan sort of uses this as a mental reset. But unfortunately for him, duty is almost always calling, and so he has to go answer another call. This time it is Joker who is robbing and defacing an art museum. But unfortunately, picking up this call and going was a terrible idea. Remember at the start of this video when I had mentioned that Ethan Bennett was an original character made for this show, and that they wanted to reinvent some villains in a new way? Well, this was one of the new ways this show reinvented a character. Ethan Bennett is Clayface. Ethan Bennett is Batman's friend turned villain. You see, at the time, DC knew that Christopher Nolan wanted to use Two-Face for his sequel to 2005's Batman Begins, so they didn't give the showrunners of this show the green light in order to make a Two-Face villain. So they had to get creative. DC at the time really hated the idea of having one character show up in one medium and also appear in another, especially if they were different. So the showrunners had to get creative, and they created Ethan Bennett, and they figured picking Clayface would be a genius move, at least partly because Clayface has been taken on by a multitude of people. The moniker has shifted hands about 8 times as of recording this video, and so it was a no-brainer to pick him to slot a brand new villain and brand new character into. Now let's rewind a bit, because I haven't exactly explained how Ethan Bennett has gotten to being Clayface yet. So when Ethan responded to that call from Joker about him taking over the art museum and defacing it, turns out that was all an elaborate ruse by Joker to capture Ethan Bennett. Joker was extremely pissed off by the fact that Ethan had viewed Batman as a more important villain to go out and get than him, the clown prince of crime. And so, in order to get back at Ethan Bennett, he vowed to torture him mentally and physically and turn him into a villain of his own making. Does that sound familiar at all? And this predates 2008's The Dark Knight, but that's besides the point. Ethan is subjected to mental tortures that no man, besides probably Batman, could withstand. He is seeing his world twisted and turned upside down. His guilt over pursuing the man that has saved him so many times is being used against him, and Ethan feels like he is falling and cannot get out. It even gets to the point that he starts laughing hysterically along with the Joker at his admittedly terrible jokes. Unfortunately for Bennett though, by the time that Batman and Detective Yin had showed up to save him, the damage was already done, both psychologically and physically. Ethan was barely hanging on by a thread, and this was very evident in his next conversation with Chief Rojas. He wasn't taking any more of the dude's crap and was visibly upset.
You gotta be kidding me. We're playing cleanup like always. The Batman saved my butt tonight.
Chief, did the Batman catch Joker?
There'll be no further comment. No comment.
Ethan is essentially fed up with Chief Rojas constantly denying the Batman's involvement, and essentially gets himself suspended when he decides to talk to the media about it in front of Chief Rojas. And this leaves Ethan Bennett feeling lost and even more alone than he already was. His whole worldview has just been shifted massively, and not to mention all of that, there was more than just the physical injuries related with his change. He was changing himself from the chemicals that he inhaled. Ethan was becoming something new, something completely different, and something he doesn't exactly know how to cope with, especially only being a few hours removed from his torture. he was starting to lose his sense of self, especially when he became this amorphous blob of clay. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't understand how he is the way he is, but he does understand one thing, and that's Chief Rojas has wronged him, and that frustrates him to no end. So Ethan was emboldened by his powers, and with a little bit of mental instability there from the Joker, he decides to go attack Chief Rojas for the wrongs he believes has been done to him, which are pretty valid, but the way in which he chooses to handle the situation is terrible. He actively wants to kill his old boss, even if that puts him in direct defiance with the man who has saved him more often than not in Batman. And when that doesn't work, Ethan tries to go home and understand himself once again. But when he looks at the photo of himself, he sort of understands who he is, but doesn't quite. He's truly changed into something different. And even when he tries to take the shape and form of who he once was, the Ethan Bennett that was before Joker messed with his mind is kind of gone at this moment. He doesn't truly exist anymore, at least not in the traditional sense. It's almost as though Ethan died and was reborn with a sort of new mentality, a split personality, if you will. This new split personality is especially evident when he sees Detective Yin for the first time in probably about a day since he was attacked by Joker and taken over. When he speaks with her, he is very cordial but extremely fake. He's not really being himself, and he's sort of putting on an act. This was kind of the first clue to Detective Yin that he's not 100% there anymore. And the second Ethan Bennett gets, he goes to go see Chief Rojas once again. And of course, his idea of seeing Chief Rojas is to dress up as Ellen and go inside of his house to attack him once again. His vengeful nature has taken full force at this point, and his other half, his other personality, has truly taken hold of him and is making him want to take over Chief Rojas. Now, you could make the argument that yes, part of this other personality will have and probably was always inside of Ethan, but Joker's mental manipulation just revealed it. But regardless of whether or not it was in him before or was implanted by the Joker or during that intense psychological torture Ethan received, what he is doing on the flip side is obviously not in the right vein. It's so bad to the point that Ellen Yin, a woman who is only seen in black and white, teams up with Batman in order to stop Ethan Bennett as Clayface. That's how bad she feels for how Ethan is doing. This does open up a unique dynamic between those two though, as Ellen Yin and Batman can sort of see eye to eye for a little bit, and Ellen acts as a sort of anchor for Ethan Bennett, anchoring him to his humanity if only briefly. But those brief bits where he is anchored to his humanity is what is used in their best interest in defeating him. Especially because in their fight, Ethan Bennett has Batman dead to rights the entire time, being a threat Batman was not prepared for. It was truly Ellen Yin who was able to ground him and get Ethan Bennett to be himself for maybe just enough time for him to walk away from the entire situation that's transpired.
You defending the Batman? I never thought I'd see the day. Yin. What's become of us?
It is a tragic yet profound ending for this first season of The Batman 2004. It was a culmination of every single episode previous in which we saw Ethan Bennett slowly go from being Batman's largest supporter in the police force to being one of his greatest enemies. And it also was a great way of showing us incrementally how Ellen Yin went from hating the Batman and wanting him arrested to understanding and seeing Ethan Bennett's moral gray area, and to sort of see where Batman lies in Gotham and that he is needed. And the two of them forge a sort of bond and partnership that will go on to last in the second season, and it's all set up thanks to Ethan Bennett. But of course, Ethan is still out there, still walking the streets, not only avoiding Ellen Yin, but Bruce Wayne and the authorities. He is still out there on the loose, but he's no longer himself anymore. Ethan Bennett is gone, only to be replaced by what we see left: Clayface. I love this version of Batman, and I love this Batman show. I really grew up watching this one, and I thought Ethan Bennett was one of my favorite characters as a kid, and watching him turn to being Clayface was always so gut-wrenching to watch because of where he starts. This is just another great example of editorials being able to do amazing things, and animation producers, when DC, the big over company, puts stupid and dumb restrictions on them, like they're not allowed to use Harvey Dent or Two-Face. Unfortunately, this version of Clayface has never been seen outside of this universe, but I feel like he would make for a great and compelling comic book line if Harvey Dent, for example, isn't available once again. But yeah, I thought Ethan would be of interesting character study, especially for my first video on this show specifically. And not to mention, you all voted on Batman 2004 as of recording this video. He was winning in the poll, so I made this video to thank you all for bearing with me. And I know you all are probably wondering where's the next EMH video coming out, and that will be next Wednesday. I'll be posting the newest EMH video, probably going over the character of Hawkeye because he's one of my favorites. But that's only for you guys who stayed to the end of this video. And if you have stayed this long, you know, a comment, a like, even a dislike or a sub goes a really long way for helping to promote this video in the algorithm. And as well, if you just want to support me, see these videos early and unedited, you can go ahead and head on over to my Patreon, which is only going for $1 a month. And a huge shout out to MCBomb27, who is my very first patron and a part of the $5 tier, who gets shouted out at the end of every video. So thank you all so much for watching, and a special thanks to MCBomb27. I hope you all have a nice day.